Detective Marcus Kane stood beneath the underpass, the same one where his brother's body had been found 12 years ago. The city was quiet now, too quiet. He dropped a small recorder to the ground, its red light blinking in the darkness like a heartbeat. Inside it was the truth. The truth that would burn everything he'd ever known. Across from him, Detective Harris, once his mentor now his enemy, stepped from the shadows, a gun glinting under the neon lights. "You should have stayed quiet, Kane," he said. Marcus exhaled slowly, eyes cold as the storm around them. "You should have stayed honest." What happens next is unbelievable. This is the echo of the Citadel, the story of a detective who uncovered a secret buried deep beneath the city, a secret that cost him everything. To understand Marcus Kane, you have to first understand Aethelgard, a city that never truly slept, only blinked. From the outside, it was a beacon of progress, gleaming skyscrapers, self-driving cars, drone patrols, neon skies. But beneath the glamour was a rot that never stopped growing. Marcus had once believed he could fight that rot. He was one of the youngest detectives to make homicide, decorated twice for bravery, known for his sharp mind and sharper instincts. But that was before the case. The one that took his brother. The official report said it was a robbery gone wrong, a junkie with a stolen gun. Marcus believed it, for a while. Until the inconsistencies began piling up. The missing witness. The altered timestamps. The autopsy that didn't match. That was 12 years ago. Now, Marcus was a shell of the man he once was. His apartment was a collection of empty coffee cups, cold dinners, and unsolved files. A police scanner murmured in the background, a lullaby for the sleepless. He'd wake up each morning before dawn, open the blinds, and stare at the city lights until his eyes stung. The guilt was always there, sitting beside him like an old friend, whispering what-ifs. What if he'd pushed harder back then? What if he hadn't believed the report? What if his brother was still alive? And somewhere between those thoughts, he'd light another cigarette, take another case, and pretend it didn't matter. But on a gray Monday morning, everything changed. Rain intensifies. A phone buzzes faintly. Marcus picked up the call. It was Jared Lynn, a former forensics analyst who'd left the department years ago. His voice was shaky, hesitant. "Marcus, I need to talk to you. It's about your brother." Silence. Just the hum of static on the other end. "You said the file was clean," Marcus replied slowly. "It's not. I found something in the archives, something that shouldn't exist. Meet me tonight. Same spot you used to park near the old viaduct." But Jared never showed. The next morning, his body was found under a bridge on the East End. Suicide, they said. Marcus didn't believe it for a second. He knew the signs, the inconsistencies, the bruises, the silence that followed. Someone had wanted Jared quiet. And whoever that someone was, they were tied to his brother's death. That night, Marcus went to the precinct. The halls were sterile, humming with the same artificial calm he'd always hated. He looked around at the new recruits, bright-eyed, eager, naive. He remembered being one of them once. Then, from behind the blinds of his old captain's office, a familiar voice cut through. "Still chasing ghosts, Kane?" "Detective Harris." Marcus froze. Harris had been his mentor, the man who taught him everything about investigative work, the man who'd comforted him after his brother's murder. "You still working nights?" Marcus asked, masking the edge in his tone. Harris smiled, the same practiced grin he always wore. "Habit, I guess. What brings you back here? Thought you were done with this life." "I heard about Jared Lynn." Harris's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Tragic. Man couldn't handle his demons. "Yeah," Marcus said. "Seems like everyone around this case has demons." For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Rain drummed softly against the windows. Marcus knew that look, Harris was hiding something. When he left the station that night, Marcus made a silent vow. He'd find out what Harris knew, even if it killed him. Over the next few days, Marcus retraced Jared's last movements. The forensics analyst had been working a contract job at a private data firm, Arsene Systems, known for managing police archives and digital evidence storage. On paper, it was legitimate. In practice, Marcus knew corruption when he smelled it. He broke into Jared's old storage locker. Inside, he found only one item: a flash drive taped under the lid. When he plugged it into his laptop, the files were encrypted, heavily. But the folder name said enough. Project Citadel. Marcus leaned back in his chair, cigarette burning low. He didn't know it yet, but Project Citadel would unravel not just the truth about his brother, but the entire foundation of justice in Aethelgard. And it would make him a target. The kind of target that doesn't live to tell the story. They followed. He accelerated. The car behind matched every move. On the bridge over the Rhine River, the other vehicle swerved forward, forcing him toward the railing. Marcus braked hard. Tires screamed. The pursuing car vanished into the fog. A warning, not a hit. They wanted him scared. Marcus wasn't scared. He was angry. Back at his apartment, he found the door unlocked. Inside, a single envelope on the kitchen counter. No note, just a Polaroid photo of Jared Lynn's corpse, eyes open, bruises fresh. On the back, one word written in red ink, stop. Marcus burned the photo over the sink, jaw tight. Someone powerful was watching. But whoever sent that message had made one mistake. They'd proven he was on the right trail. He turned to the window. Across the street, a surveillance drone hovered, red light pulsing. Marcus, whisper you want a show? Watch this. He grabbed his badge, his gun, and the drive. Time to visit those coordinates. The abandoned district was a skeleton of steel and concrete, graffiti whispering stories of lives long gone. Marcus entered through a side door, flashlight cutting narrow beams through the dark. Dust motes hung in the air like ghosts. Old police crates marked property of Aethelgard PD lined the walls. Inside one crate, dozens of body cams. Evidence from closed cases. Each file labeled Project Citadel. Marcus played one at random. Another killing. Another justified report. He realized Citadel wasn't just a project, it was an operation, a covert network erasing accountability. Killings reclassified, files scrubbed, footage buried under layers of bureaucracy. The entire system was complicit. Then came the sound, footsteps behind him. He spun, flashlight slicing through dust. No one. Then, a whisper from the shadows. You shouldn't have come here, Kane. It was Harris. Gun raised. Harris, you really think you can fix this? You think truth means anything anymore? Marcus, maybe not. But it means something to me. A single shot cracked. Metal ricocheted. Marcus dove behind a crate, firing back. When the echo faded, Harris was gone. Only his words lingered, bouncing off the empty walls. Marcus staggered outside, blood dripping from a graze on his shoulder. Lena's car screeched to a stop beside him. Lena, I heard shots. What the hell happened? Marcus, he's on to us. Harris is part of it. Maybe leading it. Lena, then we go public. Marcus, not yet. We need irrefutable proof. She handed him a file she dug up, internal memos linking our scene systems to private security contracts and off-book government funding. The deeper they looked, the more Citadel resembled a city-wide surveillance and elimination program. Their next step, find who authorized it. Marcus stared at the skyline, lights blinking through mist. Every window looked like an eye. He realized Aethelgard wasn't sick because of crime. It was sick because of silence. That night, Marcus made another recording, the one we heard in the beginning. He began documenting every step, every name, every lead. He didn't know who to trust, but he knew one thing. Truth has a pulse. And when you chase it long enough, it starts chasing back. What would you do if you stumbled upon a clue to a dark secret, one that could destroy everything you knew? Would you chase it? Or would you look away? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Two nights after the warehouse, Marcus Kane barely slept. The footage, the gunfight, the warning, it all played in loops. He wasn't sure if he'd exposed a conspiracy, or just stepped into one that had been watching him all along. Morning light painted his apartment in pale gold. Lena Torres sat at his dining table surrounded by maps, notes, and encrypted printouts. The flash drive lay between them like a holy relic. Lena, these documents, Project Citadel didn't start last year. It's been running for 7. Marcus, 7 years? That's before my brother's death. Lena, exactly. Meaning your brother didn't just stumble into it. He might have been part of something bigger. Her words hit like a quiet explosion. The possibility that Jared Lynn hadn't been entirely innocent changed everything. Marcus rubbed his temples. The truth wasn't supposed to feel this dirty. Later that day, news broke online. A leaked police memo naming Marcus Kane as a person of interest in ongoing internal affairs investigation. It was fast, too fast. The Citadel network was fighting back, with propaganda. In 24 hours, Marcus went from investigator to fugitive. News anchors questioned his integrity. Social feeds flooded with headlines. Disgraced ex-detective under investigation for data theft. Sources claim mental instability. Lena threw her phone down in disgust. Lena, they're rewriting you in real time. Marcus, then we outpace the lie. To stay ahead, they needed someone who could crack deeper into Citadel systems. Lena made a call to Silas Ghostline Becky, a cyber savant who lived off-grid in the flooded lower wards. When they met, the smell of engine oil and neon smoke filled the air. Silas was lean, his eyes pale from too many nights staring into code. Silas, you're either brave or stupid bringing this to me. Which is it? Marcus, I'll take a little of both. He examined the flash drive. Silas, this isn't just surveillance. It's behavioral mapping. Citadel's tracking patterns, predicting threats before crimes even happen. Lena, pre-crime systems? That's illegal. Silas, illegal doesn't mean unreal. Someone turned Aethelgard into a lab rat maze. He extracted a hidden directory. Inside, files marked Citizen Risk Index. Each contained personal profiles of thousands of residents. Predictive scores. Execution orders. All approved under the Urban Stabilization Protocol. The city wasn't protecting people. It was controlling them, deciding who might become dangerous, and erasing them before they could. Marcus's phone buzzed. A message from a former colleague, Detective Zara Holt. Meet me alone. I can help. Against Lena's advice, he went. They met in an underground parking lot. Zara's face was pale, eyes darting. Zara, you were right. Citadel's deeper than we thought. Harris reports to someone named Director Callan. He runs it from inside the bureau itself. Marcus, then give me proof. Zara, I tried. Files are off limits. Encrypted at the central grid tower. You'll need a key. She handed him a small chip drive. Then whispered, Zara, be careful. They're watching everyone who talks to you. As Marcus turned to leave, a gunshot split the silence. Zara dropped instantly. Blood pooled on the concrete. A shadow disappeared behind the pillars. Marcus sprinted after it, too late. Only the echo of footsteps remained. He'd come for answers and left with another corpse. Every truth in Aethelgard had a body count. That night, Marcus sat alone by the window, rain streaking the glass. He watched the city breathe, sirens flickering like veins of red light. The guilt was a living thing now. Marcus, recording. If I die, the files go public. If I live, I'm not sure I'll recognize myself when it's over. Lena found him like that, hollow-eyed, lost. Lena, you're doing this for Jared. Marcus, am I? Or am I doing it because I need to believe truth still means something? She placed a hand on his shoulder. Lena, then let's make it mean something. With Silas's help, They traced Director Callan's encrypted activity to a secure facility under Sector 9, disguised as a data management hub. They planned to infiltrate it, not to steal data, but to copy it live, proof that couldn't be denied. The plan was simple. Execution wasn't. They entered through maintenance tunnels beneath the city, past rats, rust, and the thrum of power lines. Silas hacked into the grid. Lena watched for guards. Marcus carried the drive. Inside, cold fluorescent light washed over endless server racks. Each one pulsed with digital heartbeat, the lifeblood of Citadel. Silas plugged in. Lines of code cascaded down the screen. Then alarms blared. Silas, they're onto us. Lena, how long? Silas, 30 seconds. Marcus stayed calm. He grabbed a data core, yanked the cable. Marcus, we take it. Run. Gunfire erupted behind them. They escaped through a vent shaft into the night. But not all of them made it. A bullet caught Silas near the ribs. He collapsed in the alley, blood pooling fast. Silas, weakly tell them, it was never about control. It was about fear. They wanted to feel safe. He pressed a small data chip into Marcus's hand. Then he was gone. Marcus froze, grief and rage intertwining. Lena's voice trembled. Lena, we can't stop now. Marcus, no. We finish it. Back in their hideout, they decrypted Silas's chip. It contained Callan's private communications, and something far worse. Video feed. A boardroom. Executives and officials. They spoke calmly about population metrics, predictive cleansing, and strategic removals. The system wasn't broken. It was designed this way. Aethelgard wasn't a city, it was a controlled experiment, a living organism where fear maintained order. Minutes after they uploaded the footage to secure drives, the building's power died. Windows shattered under drone fire. They barely escaped through a back stairwell, smoke and alarms chasing them. Now, they were officially enemies of the state. Lena contacted an old journalist network, people who still believed in truth, but connections were weak, and the net was tightening. They fled toward the old industrial ruins on the city's edge, where signal interference would buy them time. In the darkness, Marcus replayed Silas's final words. It was never about control. It was about fear. He realized fear was the fuel. As long as people were afraid, Citadel would thrive. Marcus. Maybe truth isn't a light. Maybe it's fire. And fire always burns before it purifies. He didn't know it yet. But the next move would bring him face to face with Director Callan. And the final revelation that would change everything. If you were Marcus Kane, hunted, discredited, and armed only with a truth the world doesn't want to hear, would you risk everything to expose it? Or would you choose silence to survive? Comment your thoughts below. The city of Aethelgard was drowning in its own silence. Broadcasts had gone dark. Patrol drones swept the streets like mechanical ghosts. And somewhere beneath that humming surface, Marcus Kane carried the last remaining truth. Marcus and Lena reached the industrial ruins of Sector 12, abandoned steel factories, hollow towers veiled in mist. They set up a temporary base inside a crumbling office once used by the old power authority. The storm outside cracked against shattered glass. Lena, we can't keep running forever. Marcus, we don't. We end it. Lena, you mean by releasing the files? Marcus, no. By making sure the right people see them. He laid the drive on the table. Every secret, every death, every manipulation, it was all there. But truth was useless if no one believed it. Marcus, quietly, if we die, this dies with us. We need amplification. Lena, then we give the city a voice. They used old broadcast relays, analog systems predating Citadel surveillance AI. Silas had mentioned a forgotten transmitter deep under the northern grid. If they reached it, they could broadcast the footage directly onto public channels, unfiltered, unstoppable. It would mean entering the lion's den. The grid tower was under heavy bureau control. But for Marcus Kane, the line between bravery and desperation had already blurred. They moved at night, through flooded streets and burnt-out corridors, past checkpoints where soldiers' faces glowed blue beneath rain-streaked helmets. Lena carried the core. Marcus carried the guilt. At a security gate, they encountered a young officer. He couldn't have been more than 21. "Officer, stop. Identify yourselves." "Marcus, you don't want to do this, kid." "Officer, you're under." Marcus fired a warning shot. The kid flinched, frozen. "Marcus, you ever ask yourself why you're guarding empty streets?" "Officer, hesitant, we're protecting order." "Marcus, no. You're protecting control." He lowered his weapon and walked past, leaving the young man trembling, not from fear but doubt. They breached the central grid tower through a maintenance lift, ascending 60 stories of darkness and static hum. At the top, a chamber of endless screens. Each display showed different streets, faces, names, prediction charts. A voice echoed through the intercom, smooth, calm, cold. "Director Callan, off-screen. I wondered when you'd come, Detective Kane. You've always had a weakness for impossible causes." Marcus froze. The voice he'd been chasing was real now, and closer than he'd ever imagined. He followed the voice into the observation deck. A glass-walled room overlooking the entire city, glowing like circuitry beneath the storm. Director Elias Callan stood there, sharp suit, pale eyes, posture of control. "Callan, you've cost us time, money, and valuable assets. But I admire your persistence." "Marcus, persistence? My brother's dead because of you." "Callan, your brother volunteered. He believed in what we were building." "Marcus, you're lying." "Callan, am I?" "Jared Lynn wasn't murdered, Marcus. He helped design Citadel's core algorithms. He built the model that predicted threat behavior." Marcus staggered backward. "Marcus, no, he was against it." "Callan, he was until he realized control is the only antidote to chaos. You of all people should understand that, detective, hero, savior complex." The sound fades to the clicking of projector reels. Old security footage plays, Jared Lynn shaking hands with officials, blueprinting predictive grids, coding algorithms with Callan beside him. Every illusion Marcus held shattered. His brother hadn't been the victim. He'd been the architect. "Marcus, you used him." "Callan, we honored him. His death was a statistical correction, a necessary purge once he tried to undo his own creation." "Marcus, you call that honor?" "Callan, I call it balance." Marcus lunged, but Callan's guards appeared, guns raised. Lena stepped forward, holding the broadcast core. "Lena, you built Citadel on lies. The city deserves to see." "Callan, and who will they believe? Their protectors, or two traitors with a stolen drive?" It was a battle of truth versus narrative. And in Aethelgard, narrative always won. But not that night. Lena connected the core to the control console. Marcus fought the guards as alarms blared. Bullets shattered glass. Wind screamed through broken panels. "Callan, you can't stop the system, Kane." Marcus, yelling, "Then I'll burn it." He shoved Callan aside and slammed the upload key. Every screen in Aethelgard flickered. Then the boardroom footage began to play, live, citywide. Ordinary citizens watched as their leaders discussed strategic removals. Families saw the faces of the men who'd condemned them. Chaos erupted. Protests. Riots. A city waking up. Callan, snarling, you think they'll thank you? You've unleashed anarchy. Marcus, no. I've unleashed truth. Callan drew his gun. Before he could fire, Lena stepped between them. The shot hit her shoulder, she collapsed. Marcus tackled Callan, both crashing into the glass wall. Lightning flashed outside. For one suspended moment, both men stared, reflection against reflection. Callan, horse, you can't kill an idea, Kane. Marcus, no. But I can end its mouthpiece. They crashed through the glass. Callan fell into the storm, vanishing into the electric fog below. Marcus pulled Lena to her feet, blood soaking her sleeve. Sirens howled below as the Citadel network collapsed, feeds looping endlessly, data spilling into the public domain. Lena, weakly, you did it. Marcus, we did. They staggered out into the dawn, the first real dawn Aethelgard had seen in years. By noon, the Bureau was in chaos. Protests filled the streets. People demanded accountability. For the first time, Aethelgard citizens were truly seeing one another, not as data points, but as human beings. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted reform. But the silence of fear was broken. In a small hospital room days later, Lena recovered slowly. Marcus sat by her bedside, watching news feeds replay the footage. The faces of men who'd believed they could predict sin. Lena, you think this changes anything? Marcus, not everything. But maybe enough. Lena, and you? Marcus, I used to think justice was a verdict. Now I think it's a process, one we have to keep choosing. He turned to the window. Outside, the city was rebuilding, raw, uncertain, alive. Weeks later, Marcus returned to his brother's grave. No fanfare. No crowd. Just rain and wind. He laid the flash drive, now empty, beside the headstone. Marcus, softly. You wanted to protect them, Jared. I just wish you'd remembered protection isn't control. He looked back toward the city skyline. Screens now displayed citizen forums, open hearings, testimonies, small sparks of transparency. The echo of the Citadel was still there, not in walls or servers, but in the minds of people learning to question again. Marcus Kane didn't vanish. He became a whisper. A myth retold in every corner where people dared to ask, who decides what's safe? Some say he still walks the streets at night, leaving encrypted messages in forgotten systems, reminding Aethelgard, freedom isn't comfort. It's responsibility. This story shows how one person's pursuit of truth can change an entire city. What's one hidden truth in your world you wish to uncover? Share it in the comments. Your insight might inspire someone else to act. Months passed. Aethelgard was still trembling, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from awakening. They said Marcus vanished after the broadcast. Some claim he fled the city under a new name, moving between underground networks. Others whisper that he works from the shadows, dismantling surveillance grids across the continent. But the truth? No one knows. Sometimes, encrypted messages still surface on old terminals, unsigned but carrying his signature code. A small phrase, always the same. Truth is the only thing that multiplies when shared. Lena recovered, though the bullet left her with a limp and a tremor in her left hand. She founded the Aurora Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to data transparency and whistleblower protection. Within months, her message reached global councils, forcing policy reforms in multiple cities. But despite recognition, she remained haunted by that night. People call us heroes. But we weren't. We were desperate. And sometimes, desperation can do more good than heroism ever could. Director Elias Callan. Official reports listed him as missing, presumed dead. But no body was ever recovered. Rumors spread that he survived. Rebuilt his identity through the very black channels he once governed. Every few months, anonymous messages appeared on the darknet. Encrypted warnings, counterclaims, and one chilling phrase signed with his initials. You can erase data, but you can't erase design. And sometimes, desperation can do more good than heroism ever could. The city of Aethelgard. The bureau fell. A new council rose, one built on oversight, citizen representation, and open-source governance. But the damage was deeper than politics. People had to relearn how to trust. How to speak without fear that someone was listening. And that kind of healing doesn't come from laws. It comes from people. Night in Aethelgard was different now. No more curfews. No more shadows where cameras blinked red. Just the sound of rain, and the quiet hum of life rediscovering itself. Marcus Kane was a detective, yes. But more than that, he was a man trying to rewrite the ending of his own guilt. He couldn't save his brother. He couldn't fix everything. But he could give the city a chance to breathe. And sometimes, that's all justice really is. A single breath after suffocation. The echo of the Citadel wasn't just a story about corruption. It was about memory, about how even in the most controlled systems, a whisper of truth can become a roar. We live in a world where data is currency, and silence is the easiest transaction. But when people like Marcus, like Lena, choose to speak, even at the edge of danger, it reminds us that every truth buried in darkness still echoes somewhere. You don't have to dismantle systems to make a difference. You just have to refuse to look away. Maybe that's how change begins. With one act of courage in a city that forgot how to feel. Stories like this remind us that hidden truths surround us all. If this story gripped your curiosity, if it made you think about the systems around you, please like this video. It helps more people discover these stories that challenge the silence. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more tales of mystery, morality, and the fight for truth. Every week, we uncover another story. Not of monsters in the dark, but of the people who dare to light the match. Look for the unseen this week. Ask questions. Search deeper. Because somewhere out there, another citadel is waiting to fall. Thank you for watching. And remember, you have the power to unravel the unknown. From the ones who still believe that truth, no matter how costly, is never the enemy.